Welcome to Creative HQ, by the way. This is our new space. We've been here for all of 2 months now. Sorry about the dust. We're still getting through that part. But we really enjoy this space. What you're seeing here is a little bit of the environment that we create in Acceleration. So we have incubation teams here as well. But it's a very conducive work environment, very collaborative and innovative work environment. And it's one of the things that we strive to do when we run acceleration programs as well. Laura Reitel, Ms. Laura, will be the program director for this program that we're going to talk about, the R9 Accelerator. She has quite a lot of experience in doing that. She comes from the States and probably arguably the most famous accelerator program, Techstars, in the States. So we're glad to have her running this program. Amanda Holt is here she leads the R9 team for MB and will be the accelerator lead from MB's perspective, from Result 9's Better Public Services for Business. And she'll talk about what is R9, for those who don't know. And then Ash Cheney, who's here, he actually will answer a lot of the questions around the commercial aspects of the program. He's the commercial lead for the program and is with MB. So I'll turn it over to Amanda so she can talk about what is R9.
Is that working?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, thank you very much for coming this evening. So I've got a bit of paper with all the online agents' names on. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the R9 program and how it is that we got involved with Creative HQ and Lightning Lab and the R9 Accelerator. So kind of the brief history of the R9 program. So the R9 program has been running for about 3 years now. And during that time, kind of the scope of the R9 program kind of changed and shifted. But basically speaking, we were put together in government to form a cross-government program. And this is why I've now got post-it notes. So the agencies that are in the R9 group, which is quite important to know because all these people are really supporting what we're doing in this accelerator. So amongst those, we have MB, which is where myself and Ash work. We have ACC, and we also have Inland Revenue. Callahan Innovation, also part of that group. New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, Statistics New Zealand, Customs, and the Ministry for Primary Industry. So, it's quite a big group of people who are all here who want to be part of this and to join in. So, as I said, the R9 program has been running for about 3 years, and we're here to do quite a few things. So one of the things that we need to do is look at how we integrate services across all these agencies to make a better customer experience, particularly for the business. We're here to do better things, to share information, so everybody only has to tell us once rather than hundreds of times. Let everybody know their heads on that one. We're here to also improve digital services, actually improve the quality of our digital services. And one of the other things that we're here to do, which is kind of why we're all here today, is actually understand and work out better ways to co-design, co-develop and co-build with private sector innovators and with third-party contributors. So this is one of the things that is really, really important to the program, and for us to actually understand how we do that. And part of that is all about actually how do we open and the procurement processes and government procurement processes to people like yourself. So we can really get your knowledge and help you also get part of that business, which is traditionally not always something that you can get a hold of. So that's broadly the R9 program. So why we're here doing this with Creative HQ and Lightning Lab. So I guess about 5 months ago. 5 months ago, we were kind of was introduced I'll now hand over to Ash.
Actually, I think I'm going to talk about acceleration
You're
first.
going to talk about
Yeah, we're
Accelerator,
going to
so
talk
do
about acceleration.
apologise,
Right,
going in the wrong
exactly.
order. When you go.
We'll leave Ash till a little later. He knows he's got his work cut out tonight. So, what is Accelerator? We model Lightning Lab after, as we've talked about, Techstars as a program that started 6-7 years ago. That's about how old Acceleration is in the States, and another famous program that's really grown, and we actually had its leader here a few months ago, speaking right where I'm standing, is Y Combinator. They're really becoming the de facto standard for how young tech-based startups get funded in larger markets. So you've seen a fundamental shift in investment, and you've seen a fundamental shift in how startups go for seed capital now in some of these more developed markets. Not necessarily what we've seen here in New Zealand yet, but we're seeing much more growth of our own program. But in the big markets, it's gotten to be such a big deal for tech startups that there are, for instance, there are about 200 accelerators alone in the United States. There are over 350 in the world today. So, go to the next slide. So what we've modeled, I know this is an eye chart, but we'll walk through it. What we've modeled is the accelerator program that we run in Lightning Lab is a 3-month program. It's a mentor-driven program. By that we mean we bring in mentors, people, some of the people in this room are mentors in the program that know businesses, know the markets that these companies operate in, know innovation, know certain techniques that are important in startup businesses, and we bring them into a framework where they actually work very closely with these startup companies and help them push along their concepts further than and faster than they would without this challenging process. Then we actually push them into a heavy market validation phase where they go out, get out of the building, and test their minimum viable products, so their prototypes basically, out in the marketplace and learn from consumers what is needed in their products. So two things really define the acceleration. It's heavy mentorship and heavy market validation. The balance of it is then actually putting the story all together on what you've learned and where you're going to go from it and pitch to investors. So at the end of our Lightning Lab programs, we have a demo day, which is characterized by a room full of investors, and all the teams get up and pitch what they have learned, what they've developed, what tractions they've gotten, and where they're going to go forward, what they need money for. So when we looked at the environment that we're going into with MB, we adjusted some things. But by and large, we want to do a very similar type of acceleration model. So where we started is the R9 team, as Amanda said, has been working for a while on researching business issues, researching pain points, understanding really where there are opportunities for change to happen. Start out with a very long list. So much like we have many applicants for our program, we had to winnow that down. We did that through a very similar process that we use in Lightning Lab again, to look at where there was value, where we could open up problem sets of opportunity for our entrepreneurs to come in and actually make change happen. And we actually put together a panel of the same types of people that we see in the accelerator, investors, business leaders in the community, and then leaders across the various agencies. And they decided collectively with us that these are the areas that we want to focus on. And that's what you see in the application. There were 12 areas that we started with that form the problem sets that will feed into this program. The next stage is we need teams. So acceleration is all about the people involved and what they can do. So unlike us taking in young businesses, we actually have to create that. We have to bring entrepreneurs together with people that know the space from inside the government, create teams that can go through this process. So that's where we are now. What we want to talk about is the call that we put out for entrepreneurs, the ROI. But at the same time, we're going and bringing people from the various agencies that are key to these programs, key to these problem sets, and would be key to these solutions, and bringing them into the fold too. So we're going to all the various agencies, all the various leaders, and drawing their best and brightest, their entrepreneurs, their squeaky wheels, if you will, and bringing them into the fold too. So what we want to create is teams that are typically going to be one entrepreneur and 2 to 3 public sector folks that are very sharp, that either know data, if that's what we're going to be working on, that's the solution, that know process, that know the problem set, and can bring that to the table with the entrepreneur and create a team that really can get a lot of things done in a short amount of time. So that's our challenge now. When we do that, we'll put those teams together. We'll determine what kind of resources we get from the public side. We'll determine what kind of resources we get from you all, the private side, what the interesting problem sets that the solutions that we're looking at, these problem areas, where you're interested, where you want to make change, where we can back that up with skills, and optimize 5 to 8 project teams to go through this process. The process, again, is a 12-week process. We've got dates. It's going to start in the middle of April. But it'll start by you guys understanding and internalizing the problem set. So give yourself time to work with the businesses, the agencies, understanding, well, what is this problem set all about? Most likely you'll come in with an idea, but we want you to galvanize that idea with the team that you have. Then you'll go into what we call a challenge round with mentors. You'll be put in front of several people who will have multiple perspectives on this problem set and on the solutions that you're thinking of. And the process there is really about challenging that solution idea and getting it to where you get different viewpoints from people who have either certain expertise that can help or that have connections to help you along the way. And that galvanizes the solution set. By the time you get out of that, you go into market validation. So by the time you get into the second month, mid-second month, you're really going out into the market and heavily working on a prototype and seeing how it will work in the market. Pivoting that, iterating that. A lot of work happens there. To the back end where you figure out, okay, this is what we have. This is our solution. This is the market validated solution. This is a solution we've worked with the agencies involved. We know it's implementable. And we're going to create a structure that'll move forward. And we'll talk about different potential outcomes, different potential structures. And just like in Lighting Lab, you'll pitch that to an investment panel and demo day and a cross-section of private and public folks. So you're getting another room full of people that are all influencers, that are all work on taking that solution to the next phase. The idea behind that then is they make a recommendation, it goes into due diligence, and then the ones that are successful and get funded go into a full-scale implementation based on the structure that's set up. You go to the next slide. So the focus really is in those 3 months. We spend a lot of our time in an intense environment working on getting solutions that are fit for purpose in the market and that are going to be fit for implementation within the private sector that you're working with. So the key principles in this are that these are public-private teams. So you're working hand in hand throughout the process. And the teams carry the weight of responsibility in the program. We can lay the framework out for you in the program. We can put mentors in front of you. We'll actually be bringing in speakers from similar places around the world that have done things in the government tech space. But it's ultimately the responsibility of the teams to develop, validate, and then propose fundable solutions. And fundable and implementable solutions. They go hand in hand. So this process that we've created helps ensure that there's value creation and there's fit with current initiatives. Those are the 2 key elements. So your responsibility is not just like the Lightning Lab guys that there's value creation, but you got the added responsibility of it's got to work with an environment that you're given, right? So, as we talk to these guys all the time, you're hacking, guys. You got an environment and you're hacking it, but that hack's got to work, right? So, the agencies are included throughout the process to ensure that you have the access to that back-end world that you've got to integrate with, and the private sector validation is included throughout the process to ensure that you actually have value creation for the end user. Right? The end user in all of these instances are the businesses that interact with the government. When it comes to the demo day, like we said, the teams are going to pitch to a panel as well as folks from the agencies and the private sector. That panel will be made up of both public and private. They'll have similar characteristics to the panel that helped select the problem sets in the first place. Leaders of business, investors, agency leaders. They'll make a recommendation to either fund or not fund. That recommendation, if it's to fund, will go forward into due diligence, working specifically with those folks that would fund the outcome. It's not just agencies, it may be private businesses, it might be investors, but it'll go into due diligence just like everything in Lightning Lab. After the demo day, you don't write a check right then and there, it goes right into due diligence. And based on that due diligence, if it does take public sector funds, there will be funds that will come into this program. And that will get implemented based on the result of the recommendation of due diligence. So, I'll talk a little bit about potential program outcomes, and then we'll let Ash talk about the procurement and commercialization side of things. So if you think about it, what we're looking for is not just solutions that the government buys. As a matter of fact, that might be the worst outcome. What we're looking for is solutions that actually help reduce the cost between business and government. Okay? So solutions can take many forms. They may be private sector product development. So we've got companies that are interested in this space. A lot of the people in the room represent companies that are interested in this space. So the end game might be that the company behind it says, I want to build a solution. It's a solution that we'll put money into, that will actually either sell back to businesses, will license back to the government, but the end game is that the entrepreneur, you guys in the room, end up either going and either get hired or contracted by the company, and it's a company, and it's a totally privately funded solution. We may see startups come out of this. So we're not stacking the deck for startups, even though Creative HQ is used to startups, but we may see where teams determine this is a good enough solution where we can have this agency be our first customer, and then we can go sell it to other agencies, we can sell it to the private sector, we can sell it to places around the world, and we want to make a startup. Lord knows you might grab some of these public folks and turn them into entrepreneurs as well. Okay? So the outcome there, maybe the entrepreneur then runs the new company and looks for outside funding. Gets a little bit of funding from the government, gets outside funding, starts a startup. It may be a strict public sector project. So an outcome here might be that, boy, this solution really helps an existing initiative so much better, but the real value is if we work with the existing initiative, the public sector funds it completely, we come on into that initiative, so get hired to participate, or maybe even lead the project, and go forward that way. So totally public sector funded, or public-private sector partnerships. An interesting one we've seen is ZIP. Anybody knows ZIP? The Department of Conservation is using, ZIP program. It's abatement. It's rodent abatement, basically, right? So it's a perfect example of, frankly, an NGO, a non-government organization, of a non-for-profit being created to solve a problem that both the government and private sector have, and it's funded as a third-party entity, and the entrepreneur goes and runs the entity, and they fund from both sources, from both private point we wanted to make is that it's not predefined at all in the process. And it is the responsibility, frankly, of you guys to determine what the outcome will be, right? So it's your responsibility to determine what the solution will be. It's your responsibility to determine what the market validation of that solution, so sort of validate it, to figure out how it's going to be implemented, and what's going to happen going forward. And you've got all the resources to work with you that you need. With that, turn it over to Ash.
Really fun thing. So as Brett said, there's a number of possible outcomes that will come out of this program. So some of the things on that slide there are definite, and some of them are
you've done work in this space. If there's anything that you're bringing to the table into the program, it's yours. That's clear. Second thing is, much like in any accelerator program, what the outcome of the program is will really dictate who has the rights to the IP and who goes forward with it. So it's value based, right? So if the value in the outcome is best achieved through a private entity, then that private entity will have the IP, right? Unless there is, as Ash said, some kind of circumstance that's beyond the norm that dictates that there's a little bit shared. And then again, it's a negotiation, right? So just like in everything, you got to think about, well, if I've created this and they need me to make it go forward, and I create a structure that makes sense to put funding in, whether that's private or public, I'll have a lot more of the say of what happens with the IP than anybody in the room, right? So as an entrepreneur, I know there's risk inherent in this, but there are a couple ground rules that help you dictate and manage that risk. And as entrepreneurs, you know how to assess risk, all right? So what we suggest to these guys is let's be honest and open about what we know and don't know, so you guys can honestly assess the risk. What we know, what we know is IP that comes in is yours. What we don't know is what your outcome's going to be of it, right? But at that point, it's a negotiation.
I was just going to say, that in that eventuality, the fact that the government wanted to keep some of the IP is actually really good news for you, because that means the government has got vested interest in seeing it through and wants it to be successful. So they're not necessarily your backer, but in an IP ownership sense and communication of that, that's a good thing.
We do have one example, Matt. Do you want to talk? So we did a program called App for IR. I don't know if anybody heard of that by App for IR. It's basically a crowdsourcing program to look for solutions for IR. Matt won. So he's gone through a similar process. So he had to work through those various same issues. I don't know if you want to talk a little about your experience.
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward actually. Once we all the way through the, it was fairly straightforward, which was quite surprising from the government. Basically, throughout the process, we were reassured that we would retain ownership of the IP until the winner was announced, and then we were quite aware that when the winner was announced, we would work with IR to come to an agreement with the IP, and what we came to was that IR would have sole rights to the IP, but they wouldn't necessarily own it. So we could take our IP that we've developed through this process and potentially sell it outside of New Zealand if we wanted to. And within New Zealand, they can use everything that we've developed. And to be honest, once we won the competition, everything that was developed beyond that point was sort of a 50-50 ownership anyway, because we had to work quite closely with them to further develop. And that's just, like we've already talked about here, is that has to be the case, because you have to have access to all their banking systems and all that sort of stuff, which you just wouldn't be able to otherwise. Yes. I hope that makes sense.
Any questions? So we did want to go over dates, show you. So applications close on Monday at 5. One of the key things here I need to emphasize is if you don't get an application in, you won't be in. It's part of how this works. One of the things about working with government, they're pretty fixed about their dates. We will notify you of selection by the 18th and no later. You've been told?
That will be honest.
We will start by the 13th of April. The one thing we don't have a specific demo day far enough out that we've got to get enough of the agency folks to get it on their diary, and we're we're almost there, but not quite yet. But we're looking about somewhere between the 5th and 12th of
Yeah, that's
July.
right.
Is that what we- yeah. So basically early to mid-July for a demo day. By the time you get the program started, that date will be so far off in the future. But the key thing we want to talk about that I want to leave with you, and the reason that Crave HQ invested in this with these guys is we think it's such a great opportunity. We know, we've talked to everybody that there have been initiatives that haven't owned up to their potential. We know that there's a trust issue. We know that. We respect that. Right? But it doesn't stop us from doing more and more things to work together to solve the problem. Right? I mean, we're entrepreneurs. It's in our DNA. So we try to come up with something that truly has potential to solve the problem, to move the needle a bit. Right? And if you think about it just practically, it gives such fantastic access. Right? You're working with hand in hand for 3 months with people who know the problem set from within the government. You have full access to it, like Matt was saying. Having that access was so valuable. If you sell enterprise software, like I did for many years, having access to a beta customer is everything, right? This is access, right? It's also something that the government is getting behind. I know firsthand, we've talked to all the CEs of every one of those agencies that Amanda mentioned, and they're all behind it. They're all excited about it, all right? So it does have enough exposure to actually make something work here, right? So acknowledge the risk, right? Acknowledge the history, but accept the fact that this is opportunity, not glazed as something else. It's real opportunity.
To also